Right then, good afternoon, folks. My name's Delia. Now I haven't, you've probably noticed I haven't done much in the way of recording over the last few months, maybe even a couple of years, and that's because obviously we've been through quite a traumatic family issue over the last couple of years. But now my new studio has been built in the garden. We live in a beautiful place. And thanks to a lot of really good friends, close friends, and family, I'm coming out the other side and getting my enthusiasm back for the painting. Uh, Now, I haven't done watercolours since I left the shop, which was the art room in Fallsgrave. I left that in August 2023. So I've revisiting watercolors now again. I mean, you don't forget what you've learned anyway, but I've revisited. So I am doing quite a bit of practice just to, get the muscle memory back and everything. Um, and I still do my color pencils as well. So for the start off, I'm from next month, I'm going to be doing some journal stuff with watercolors and colored pencil. So I'll have two journals on the go, and I'll be using the journal to record different colours, new colours I start, new brands, all that sort of thing. And also I'll be putting in there some topics. I'll be doing some videos at least once a week from August, and I'm going to be doing things on like stretching paper, um, paper when it comes to using paper, cold press versus hot press, when's the best time to use them, and other things like over the last couple of weeks, I've realised and learned quite a little bit more on painting watercolours in extreme heat. And then also a little bit about using white in your palette. Excuse me, a white watercolour in your palette, okay? And what uses it has and what the pros and cons are basically. But for today, what we're going to do today is a little bit of color theory and the colors that you'll need in your palette. Now, when you look at different brands on the market today, Daniel Smith is one of them. I mean, there are hundreds of colors. Now, the more colors you have in your palette, the less you tend to think about mixing. And you can lose touch with, what colours actually do work well together and how to mix those colours. So I want to take back to basics where you have six primaries, well, three primaries, but you have a warm and a cool of each of the primaries, which is red, yellow, and blue. And then I have one neutral, which is a burnt sienna. And I love burnt sienna. It's a nice autumnal brown. It's a reddy brown, but it's absolutely great for mixing greys with as well. You can use the three primary colours, but if you've got French ultramarine in your palette, then that with the burnt sienna is an excellent way of getting a neutral grey right from dark to light, but then also the cool greys from dark to light, and also the warmer greys from dark to light, which I'll show you at the end of the video. So to start with, I'm just looking here. This is a colour wheel. This is my one that I've done, but it's for pencil, but it's the same principle. So we've got like the primary colours here. So we've got the pure yellow here, blue, and then the red. Now, if you look on here, I've actually written there. So the yellow, warm, round this way. So round all this edge here, up to this violet, which is, let me just move this on a bit. Oops, it's stuck there. So here, the violet is cool. So from the violet up to the yellow green, that's all cool colours. So one of the most important things I learned about colour and learning the colour theory, what made it stick basically in my head, wasn't just learning about the red, yellow, and the blue and mixing them. It was also about the temperature and the translucency of the paint and the permanence. So when I buy paints, I do look at all those three um, formats of the paint. And also I look at the pigment that's in there. And I mean, Winsor & Newton, today we're going to use the Winsor & Newton one. I mean, I do have two palettes. One is the Senilia paints, which I do prefer personally because they're a bit softer. They've got the honey in them, and they're beautiful, vibrant colours. But also, still have my Winsor& Newton palette, the professional quality paints. And Winsor& Newton are good for several reasons. Obviously, they've been around a long, long time. Um, and if anybody actually does a bit of research into them and how they actually make the paints and how many chemists work for them, you'd be quite surprised. And that's why what we call artist quality paints are quite expensive. But Winsor& Newton as well, they use a lot of single pigments, which is a good thing. So, so we've got this colour wheel here. So I mean, these are the varying colours with coloured pencil. So let me have a look. So let me turn that round there. So like yellow, say for instance. So that's the purest colour yellow I've got in this particular pencil set there. And then if we go down here, I've got these yellows, they're classed as yellows, and them two there. Then these are all neutral in the middle. Then if you move around that way, we've got what we call yellow orange. So that is where we mix. So if you've got the secondary colour, which is orange, which you get from mixing red and yellow, then if you add a bit more yellow to it, it changes. So, but these are pencils, so these are actual colours that are classed as yellow orange. Okay, but we're not going to be doing that far today. So the basics that we need to know is the yellow, the blue, and the red, and the temperature. So here we go. I've set out already in this book. This is one of my older journal books. And this has got, so the colours that I've picked, I've done, I've used these on a lot of occasions, and these are ones that I pick quite often. So we've got the Winsor Lemon. So these are the cool primaries. So these are first the cool primaries. So we've got Winsor Lemon. The T represents that it's translucent. And then underneath, the underlying colour or the underlying tone of the colour is green. So it's going towards the green. So that's why it's a cool yellow, because it is going to the cooler side, which is this side of the colour wheel. Then we've got permanent alizarin crimson. Now you can get alizarin crimson, but to be honest, the permanent alizarin crimson is a little bit more permanent, so it's more light fast, and also it's a more transparent than the just alizarin crimson. So if you can, you want the permanent alizarin crimson, so it's transparent, and the undertone on that one is blue. So that's going more towards the blue of the wheel. So in other words, it's got more red in it. So it's got red tones going towards the blue. Then we've got the blue, cool blue. I've picked out the Winsor Blue green shade. This is also like the phthalo. So in a lot of brands, you could use the phthalo blue. And it's a blue that goes towards the green. So it's got a lot of that in there. It's a nice vibrant blue. And it's useful for quite a lot of things. Again, it's transparent and the undertone is green, obviously, because we've got it there in the green shade. So we move down to the warm colours. We've got Winsor Yellow Deep. So again, it's a translucent colour. I do try and find as many of the translucents as possible. I mean, all watercolour is translucent to a certain degree, but you do get some that are opaque. But these are really transparent. Now that undertone is red, so that's going towards the warmer side of the colour wheel. So it's a yellow, but it's going somewhere here, so it's going more towards the red side of the wheel. And we've got, for the red, I've got quinacridone red. Now that was introduced in around the 1950s to Winsor& Newton brand. Again, it's translucent, so it's one of the later colours. And again, that's going towards, so that's sort of red, so it's going more towards the red violet colour. So it's got, red undertones, but it is going towards a violet colour as well. Then we've got French ultramarine blue. Now, this is one of the most used blues, I would say. Again, it's translucent and it's classed as a warm blue, and that's got red undertones. So that's the swatching that we're going to do. We're going to swatch the actual colours first. Then I'm going to turn over, and on this page, we're going to see about some colour mixing. So what I've done here is we've got, so to start with, we're going to mix some oranges. Some greens, sorry, I've got greens down here, sorry. So for greens, we need to mix the two primary colours, yellow and blue. But we've got two blues, we've got two yellows. So what we're going to do is we're going to see the trend and give you an idea of what you can get by mixing the cools and warm colours together and how it changes what you get on your paper. So for a start off, we've got cool yellow and cool blue. Now, both of them have got green undertones. So in other words, they're going more towards the green. So I would expect, and we'll soon see when we mix them, I would expect quite a vibrant, nice, bright green there. But the others, I would expect more muted, some brownish green, totally different greens. One of them will probably come out more like sappy green, medium green. So the first thing we're going to do is I've set out some squares here and I've actually put, so whenever you get a new brand of paints or even if you get new colours, what I suggest you do is like a swatch of them. Now, because we're just doing the primary colours here, I've just put cool, warm, but you could do this and set the squares out and just write the paint there, title of the paint. Sorry, my hand's moving. I don't think I can get this. Let me have a look if I can actually get this any better. No, it's on the highest. Autofocus. Yeah, sorry about that, folks. It will focus in a minute. Fit into it like that. It should focus out in a minute. Excuse me. So let me just go back up. There we go. So yeah, do a square. Put whether, the cool colours that you get in a line and your warm colours. Put the title of the paint at the top. I always put whether it's semi-transparent, transparent, opaque, or semi-opaque. So it gives me a reminder of what's what. And then also I find out what permanence it is. If it's an A, then that's good. It's very light fast. And then the undertone. So again, you can use the colour wheel, and if you sort of look at it and you can sort of, once the paint's down, you will see. And the more you do this, and the more you get to know your colours. And like I say, if you keep to a limited palette, you can get to know these colours. And then once you're comfortable with using them and mixing them, then you can start to add other colours as well. So I've got a palette here with them on. So let's have a look. Just going to get a brush. Let me get some kitchen roll. So let's just swatch the colours down first. So the first one I'm going to use is the cool yellow, which is Winsor Lemon. Okay, so I'm just going to fill this square in. Now, you probably won't, once we get the warm colour down, you will definitely see the difference in the two colours. So there you are, you've got a very vibrant, and lemon yellow is a vibrant colour. Okay, so we've got that down there. So we'll leave that to dry. And then I'm going to put down the warm yellow next. Okay, let me just dab that on the towel. So this is the Winsor Yellow Deep. Okay, so as you can see, when you put this down, you can see that it has got a much warmer feel than that one has. And you can tell by them side by side, this looks a bit more reddy. It's got more reddy tones in it. Okay, and that one, it's got more greeny tones in it. Okay, so now we'll go on to the alizarin crimson, which is a cool red, and it's the permanent alizarin crimson, sorry. So I'm going to mix some of that up, and we'll pop this in. Now, red is quite, it's a powerful colour and it's a staining colour, I think. So you do need, when you're mixing this with any other colour, you do need to be careful with the amount that you put in. So sometimes what I do is I put a little bit on the side, on the centre of a palette or at the edge, and then I just pull it across as I need it till I get the right mix that I'm looking for. Another thing, when you mix in two colours, so say when we come to mix these two colours to make an orange, always put your lightest colour in the palette first and then the other one. And ideally, if you place them next to each other and then pull them together gradually, and you will see your colour appear there. So now we're going to go on to the warm red. So for this one, I picked Quinacridone Red. Now, out of all the colours, I think the hardest two to distinguish probably is going to be the reds. But I mean, I can see them. I can see the difference. That is a lot cooler to this one. That's got more of a blue undertone, whereas this one's got more of a pinky, violety undertone. Okay. But it's more red. It is a red. So now we're going to go on to the cool. Sorry, I'm going to use the warm. I've got my palette wrong. So I've got the warm blue here. So this is the French Ultramarine, which is quite a popular paint. It's quite universal. People use it in skies, seas. Like I say, I mix it with like burnt sienna, or you can mix it with burnt umber, and you can produce some beautiful neutral greys, or you can use it to add to and make your greys or whatever a little bit cooler. Okay, so that's a nice blue colour. They look a bit more vibrant on my paper to what I'm seeing on screen, but we'll see. So, excuse me. So the last swatch on this is the Winsor Blue green shade, or phthalo blue, as some people want to call it. This really is a vibrant blue, and you can easily see the green undertone in this. Okay. There we go. So you've got the cool blue there and the warm blue there. So when you see these colours next to each other, you can see a little bit easier which are warm and which are cool. And as I say, it's worth you getting to know what the undertones of each of these colours are. Okay. So I'm just going to let that dry a bit. So yeah, so we've got the yellow here. So it is a bright yellow. It's a darker one, yeah. So it is very on the colour wheel. It's one of the, you can see there it's one of the it's coming this way towards the green, so it's got a bit of a green tinge into it there. The alizarin crimson is more of a, it's going towards the blue, so it's a little bit like that colour there in the pencil. So it's going this way round. So it's got the undertones for the cool colours, and then we've got the Winsor, the phthalo, which is, where are we? It's here somewhere. So it's there, it's going towards this green, so it's up this end here. And then we've got the Winsor Yellow Deep, which is the warmer colour, which is on this side of the colour wheel, on the warm side. So it's going more towards the red, orange and red. And then we've got the Quinacridone Red, which is going this way again, so that's on the warm side. And then the French Ultramarine again is it's going towards the warm side. Okay, right then, so let me just make sure that's dried off. Yeah. Okay, so on this next page, what I've done is I have laid out some squares again. Don't know if you can read them. I've put, so whatever you've got as your cool yellow. So over the page, as I say, we've got the lemon yellow. So it'll be the lemon yellow, plus I put a cool blue. Both of those have got a green undertone. So I've just put that under there so that when we mix it, and the result of it, we can then analyze it and think, well, that's how I know now how I can get a muted green or a bright green. You can buy greens. I'm not saying, but I personally don't like the shop bought greens. I like to mix my own greens, because you look round, there's such a variety of greens that I just feel it's better if I can sort of mix my own. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to mix up some of these colours now to see what kind of vibrancy we get. So we're going to start with green. So for the first green, I'm going to mix some lemon yellow, which is the cool yellow, with some of the phthalo or Winsor blue green shade. Okay, mix that so we've got sort of a real nice, make it a little bit thicker so we can see exactly what we're getting. Okay. And as I say, you put the yellow in first because what you don't want is to, if you put the blue in and then you put, too much blue, you're going to have to add a lot of yellow to get to where you want to be. And that's not what you want to happen. Okay. So this is the colour that we get by mixing. So I'm going to do all of these colours first, mixing, and then we can have a look at them and you will see the difference in them. And as I say, by doing this and actually physically practicing it, you do learn a lot more about your colours and you do learn a lot faster. But there we are. So that's that one. So on the next one, I've got, so let me just get some tissue and wipe that bit out of there. Okay. So now I'm going to put down some, I'm going to put in some lemon yellow again. So we've got the cool yellow again with a warm blue. I do excuse this. I do apologise for this. I don't know what's happening with the focus on this camera at the moment, but I'll get it sorted. So there's the yellow. So I put that in first. But this time we're not adding the cool blue, we're adding the warm blue. So rinse your brush. You should always rinse your brush when you're changing colours and take quite a bit of the moisture out. So I'm just going to pick some of this blue up and add that in. So there we go. Maybe a little bit more of the yellow. Okay, so now I'm going to pop that down here. As you can see, it is a totally different green. Now this to me, I suppose, is the one that I would call quite like a sap green. I mean, you can darken it by adding, or you can make it more of a bluey green by adding more blue to it. You can make it a bit more vibrant by adding more yellow to it. So this is where you start with your base greens and you pick which green you think you're going to need for whatever it is you're painting. And then you can decide whether you need to cool it down or warm it up. So then it makes it easier for you to decide what colour to add to it. So the next one is the warm yellow we've got here. Clean the brush, wipe the brush, and then I put warm blue. So again, we're going to have some more of this ultramarine in with the warm. I would have expect like a brownie green, which is what I'm getting, which is a lovely. I like it. It's a muted green, but it does have its uses and it's really nice. Okay, so let's put some of the. Oops, a bit too much yellow there, but that's it. Yeah, a bit more of the warm. Oh, there we go. So put that one in here. So you can see this is a lot more earthy and muted. And that's by putting two warm colours, warm primaries together. Okay, so you get quite a lot warmer. So you can see that's more of an earthy colour, more towards olive green, I would say. So the last one is going to be a warm yellow again, but this time, let me just get rid of these. We're going to add a cool blue. Okay, so this will be the fourth green. So we've got the warm yellow. So I put the yellow down first. Okay. But then we're going to pick up some of this cool blue. Just give that a rinse. Right, you see what I mean? I put too much blue down there, so now I've got to go back and add a considerable amount of yellow. Okay. And again, put this down. And again, this one, it's another totally different green. It's quite vibrant, but it's more of I'd say a bluey green. That's more towards a bluey green. But we've got there 4 clear different greens, okay, from mixing 2 colours, 2 primary colours, and that's the yellow and blue, but varying between warm and cool colours. So can you see that I mean, you might, if you don't know about cool and warm temperatures, then you could mix those two and you want in this colour. So by learning how warm and cool colours work together is your base point. From then you can add other colours to it or add a bit more of whichever one of the 2 colours you're using to create the colour that you're looking for. And another thing to remember is when you're painting something, cool colours recede and warm colours fetch whatever you're painting to the front. So you've got anything that goes in the background needs to be of a cool tone. And then anything that comes forward needs to be of a warm tone. So sort of like this one, water dry it down would be ideal for, say, the back trees, or even that one cooled right, water dry it down, and then something like that fetch forward, darkened up and fetch forward, or even something as bright as that. And it can alter the effect of your painting. So we've done the greens. So let me just clean this little palette up. I'm getting paint everywhere. Let me just, okay. So now we're moving on and we're going to we're going to mix some oranges. I'm looking to create some oranges. So, um, so let's have a look. So I'm going to start with the yellow again. So I'm going to start with a cool yellow. Now, be careful. This is about contamination of paint, so I need to be careful and pick up this yellow. Don't want to. So it is all about washing your brush out in between. Roll it on a cloth so you get some of it out. So I've done the cool yellow. So now I'm going to look at the cool red, which is the permanent alizarin crimson. Okay. Now, as I said, this is a powerful colour, so I'm just going to add it a bit at a time. Okay. So you can see there it's quite red. So let's add a bit more of this cool yellow. There we go. And then just a tiny bit more of the red. Not getting enough strength in this. Right. Do that. Clean my brush. Nearly missed it. So as you can see, it's gone a bit red again. I'm going to have to put some fresh yellow in here, I think. There we go. So we're starting now to see the orange appear. Okay, so let's put that in the first box. So it's got a little bit of a red, more red in it, I think, than the yellow. There we go. So that's sort of a nice, sort of not quite vibrant orange. So the next one is the cool yellow. So let me get some more of this yellow out and get this cleaned out. What I usually do is in my actual palette, I'll have 2 lemon yellows, one that I mix with blues and one that I mix with other colours, or that I use on its own, so it's kept clean. So let me just put a little bit more of this Winsor lemon down. Make sure I try and keep them clean now. So the next one is going to be the cool yellow and a warm red. Okay, so I'm going to put the yellow down first. There. Okay. Clean the brush, wipe it on cloth. We've got all the colour out. And then we're looking for a warm red, which is the quinacridone red. Okay. They want about 50-50. So now that is a lot more vibrant, that orange. Let me just thicken it up a bit. It's a bit watery then. So it's a cool yellow. Clean my brush and touch of the warm red. There we go. Well, that is a really vibrant orange. Okay, but again, you can see it's different to that one. I'm slightly more muted. So the next one is the warm yellow and the warm red. So let's put the warm yellow down first, like that. Clean the brush, have it on the pad. Try just a little bit of that. Okay, might need a little bit more. It's a bit too red, that. So just put a slight more. There we go. Okay. And then we have another orange. That is vibrant, that one. So each orange has got a bit more vibrant. So the next one is a warm yellow with a cool red. Okay, so the warm yellow. Right, and then some permanent alizarin crimson. Clean the brush. Okay, more of that orange, yellow in there. And this is, there we go. More. That is a lot more muted, sort of natural sort of orange. But orange is one of the hardest ones to distinguish, but you can still see there are 4 different types of orange there. So on the last one, we're looking for violet, which is what we get when we mix a red and a blue together. So we're going to go through the same process again. I'm just going to clean the palette. I usually have a big palette, so I don't usually clean it as much, but I just don't want to contaminate the colours if I can help it. Okay. So, clean brush. So now we're going to start here. We've got a cool red with a cool blue. So the cool red is the permanent alizarin crimson. Now these colours are all about, the blues and the reds aren't that much different, but I'm going to put the red down first. Okay, so there we go. We've got the red. Clean my brush. Take the water out, and then the cool blue, which is the Winsor blue green shade. And again, this is, you see, it's overpowered. It has overpowered the red. So let me just pop that there, so see if you can see it. So what I'm gonna have to do is put a bit of red in there. That's it. So the purple we've got there is we go, not a vibrant purple, but it's lovely. It is a nice purple. It's a muted earthy purple. Okay, in my brush. So the next one is a cool red with a warm blue. So we've got quinacridone red. So we'll get that here. Okay. And then clean the brush, wipe on the damp pad, and add the French ultramarine. Okay. So this is going more towards a there we go. It's about 50-50. Let me just dampen it a little bit. It's a bit. It's a slightly redder purple, going towards the mauve or the red. But nice, vibrant colour again. So the next one is a warm red with, so let me clear that out. The palette. So we're now using a warm red, which is the quinacridone red, with a warm blue. So with French ultramarine. Okay. Oh, actually, no, that's that one. I've just mixed them up. So actually, what we should be doing now is a cool red with a warm. So that's the wrong way around. Sorry, I do apologize for that. So that was a warm red. That's the cool red. That was the warm red. This is the cool red. Sorry about that. My mistake. Not looking what I'm doing. So we've got the cool red in there, and we're going to use the warm blue, which is a French ultramarine. Okay. That's that colour there. So that's another purple. Okay. Again, slight variation. So the final one is going to be a warm red and a cool blue. Where are we? A bit more tissue here. So we've got the warm red and a cool blue. So in the brush. So the warm red is a quinacridone. And I want some of this phthalo or the Windsor green blue shade. Okay. Okay. Like that. And that is like a more of a magenta, I would say. Okay. So there we go. So there's the purples. So we've got as I say, we've got 2 yellows, 2 reds, and 2 blues, and we've actually created 12 different colours there. Okay, so the last bit I'm going to show you is where we have I have burnt sienna. Let me just get rid of burnt sienna. So, oops. So let me just take one of these. I'll put it next to it because this is how I do it. So on the palette here, I've got some French ultramarine. Okay, so I really wish I knew what was up with this. See if that's any better. Just see if that's any better. Okay, move that away. It looks a bit better. So now I'm going to put a little bit of this burnt sienna. This is the French ultramarine. I'm just going to put a little bit burnt sienna at that side. Okay. Clean my brush. And I'm just going to put some of that here. And then a little bit of this blue in. And when you mix the 2 colours together, like that, let me just move this across this way so you can see what we're doing. So if I put that there, See, we get a nice dark. So a bit more of the blue. Trying to make it so to make it as dark as possible, you need to add quite a lot of paint. Okay. So there you go. Look, so that's quite black. And then if I just add some water to it and move it along, you can see as it gets lighter, the more water you add, it becomes a sort of neutral grey. So that's a nice grey. So you've got from the dark to the light. That's with the burnt sienna and the blue. But then say I want a grey where it's a little bit more blue. So what I do is I add a little bit more of the French ultramarine into the mix. Okay, and then what happens then is I get more of a Payne's grey. I get more of a bluey grey. Okay. That, okay, a bit thicker there. Yep. So then when I add some water to that, and that fades away. Oops, a bit too soon. But there. And when you see that, that is a much, it's got more blue in it than that one has. So it's a more bluey colour. So it's a cooler grey. But then I might want a warmer grey. So what I do is I add a touch more brown into the mix. So where's my French ultramarine? Isn't he? Let me just get a little touch more. I've run out of French ultramarine. Okay. So I've got the French ultramarine and the burnt sienna, which is a touch more burnt sienna, I think, than the French ultramarine. Yep. There we go. So if I put that down, again, it's quite a dark colour if you mix it thick enough. I just haven't got it thick enough in this palette, I don't think. There we go. But if I add a bit more water to it, and start to thin it out a bit there. Oops, more water. Clean the brush out, would be better. If you look, that's got more of a warm tone to it. So you can see that's a warmer grey than that one. So you've got the neutral, then it goes to cool. And that's just mixing two colours. That's burnt sienna and French ultramarine. Now, the other way you can do it is you could mix it. And let's have a look. So depending again, you'd have to decide whether you're going to use your cool colours or your warm colours. But you could mix like 60%. So this is like percentages. So 60%. So you're going to have more of the French ultramarine. Okay, clean my brush. I'm going to use a warm. Oops, I'm going to use a warm yellow. So I want about 30% of what I did in the blue in yellow. Mix that in. So it goes to like a really dark greeny grey. Okay. Rinse that out. And then I want the tiniest amount of yellow. So I'm going to use the quinacridone, the warm. So I've used all warm colours here. And I have got the tiniest bit of red because I say it's such a powerful colour. So I need a little bit. So what you do, you have to adjust this. So you do waste a little bit more paint doing it this way. And then see, I'm wasting too much because I used to mix like this all the time, but I don't seem to do it so much now. So let me add that. You see, there's still quite a lot of red there. And just a little bit more yellow, I think. There we go. A bit more blue. So you can mix it with your three primary colours, and it's 60% blue, 30% yellow, and 10% red. Now I've used warm on all of them. Okay. And then again, you just add more blue to it or more red to it to make it one or the other. So yep. See, that would then turn it in to a little bit more of a bluey, like a Payne's grey. And then if you wanted to, you could just add just, and I mean just the tiniest touch of red and yellow. Because that's what burnt sienna is. It's the red and the yellow pigments in there with mixed with the blue that gives you the grey, but you're not using as much paint as what you do when you do it this way. I've got a bit of practice with this one, I think. And there's the warmer colour. Okay, so it's worth you practicing with the three primaries to get your grey. That's how I started, and then it was only later on. Now, if you didn't like burnt sienna, if you've got burnt umber, you could use burnt umber and French ultramarine, and you'll get similar similar formats. And there are other colours that you can mix together to make grey, but I find that the burnt sienna and the French ultramarine are the easier ones and the best ones to get the results. It's a bit more straightforward and you don't use as much paint. So I hope that's been useful to you. Now, as I said earlier, I like Sennelier paints. So if we just look here at the side, this is a similar thing what I did, but these obviously are all Sennelier colours. And then what I did was I used a similar sort of format as these, same format as these, and there's the oranges. Okay, and then the greens are there, which again, they're very, very similar. There's not that much difference in the brands. And then the purples there. There was a little bit more difference in the purples. But as I say, it all depends on what you pick as your primary colours. So these are the ones that I've picked, but there are others. So if you just look and say, right, I want to know what all the cool yellows are, what we call proper primary yellows, and you get a list of just whatever you've got there that's cool. And then a warm one. So they don't necessarily have to be these particular colours, but these are the ones that I've picked. They're quite vibrant. As I say, they're all translucent, and the colours that I have in my palette most of the time anyway. And then these are the colours I've mixed. And then from there, so this is in my book, and I keep this as a reference. And then the other thing I would suggest you do is whenever you've got your paints, if you've got 12 paints, whatever, actually do some swatches. And then also do some swatches with where you mix all your colours, because from 12 colours, if you mix them all together, you should get 144 different colours just from 12 colours. And these, I mean, I put them in books because they're easier to find and label, whereas you can put them on charts, which is what I used to do. So like this one is my main Sennelier one that's on a big sheet, and that is on my wall. So yeah, I have this on my wall because I use them paints more than I do the Winsor Newton. But the Winsor Newton ones are fine and they're in my book. So this is it's a watercolor journal book. And I've done little bits in it there. So you can see there where I've used some of these colours. And I use them sometimes when I do a initial sketch, deciding on what colours I want to use. And then I just do a little piece like that, and then I will transfer that and do a big one of it. And this was the goldfinch that I did quite a couple of years ago now. The paper in here is 200 GSM. I've got a new journal coming for the August start off, and that's going to be in that's 300 GSM, and it's 100% cotton. So that's coming soon. So that will be a nice one, and it's cold pressed. But this is a lovely book. It's a handbook journal. I got it from it's by Speedball Art Products. I got it from Jackson's. But yes, and then obviously again I've been messing about there with some little colours. This was like a little petal I was playing with, a hydrangea petals. I've done a little bit of the rectangle and mandala. So I've used this book for all sorts. That's a watercolor mandala I did. Again, here this was a song thrush egg, so I used some. So on here I did use some slightly different colours to what I normally would use, and then I've just jotted down. So this is like a project, and then I just jot down my stages so that I can pass that on. Well, that was a disaster. So was that one. And then this is, like I say, swatches, but this was the idea of this was I got some like this is the manufactured colour. So you've got indigo, olive, sap green, burnt sienna, and quinacridone gold. And then what I've done is I've mixed certain colours to get as close as I can to these colours. So again, this is another thing. I mean, I've mixed up to 4 different colours in there to get the burnt sienna. That one's got 4 in it. So this first one, the indigo, if you mix alizarin crimson with lemon yellow and a bit of ultramarine blue, you'll get an indigo. For this one, I messed about and I got Indian yellow, which is a warm yellow, plus ultramarine blue, which is warm, and then I got Scarlet Lake and a bit of Viridian to get the olive green. I mean, that's quite dark, but then I watered it to that. Sap green, I used Prussian blue, lemon yellow, Indian yellow, and ultramarine to get the sap green. So this was just a bit that I was messing about with again and trying. I mean, I don't use the Indian yellow, but Indian yellow is a nice warm yellow. There's the lemon, the alizarin crimson. That was before I got the permanent. And I used Scarlet Lake. I used to use Scarlet Lake, whereas now I've replaced that with the quinacridone red, French ultramarine, and the Prussian blue I've replaced with the phthalo or the Windsor blue green shade. So it was a very similar palette, but I do, there's nothing to stop you just adding other colours in and messing. And if you find that colour works better for you for what your subjects are, then that's fine. But this is how I started by trying to match some shop bought colours. And as I say now, so also I did a little bit on colours here about calming colours, or all the different colours that are classed as calming colours, like blue. It's a peaceful, calm, and gentle colour. It's great for managing stress. So again, that can help you with whatever subject you're painting, or even with your home decor, basically, or how you're feeling. Um, this is a bit about washers, just notes that I've done. Again, this is some more swatching that I've done, and also how the paints react and the brushes and whether it's wet on wet or dry. Some more washers there. Then I did some the other week on some leaves and sort of mixing greens and wet on wet. And again, how I got the colours before I transferred it to a big picture, big painting. So that was another one. And then today is this, what we've just done today. So colour is one of the most important aspects of when you're painting. And as I say, just occasionally, if you don't want to be doing a big painting, or you want a break, or you want to get a little bit of research, practice, I always go back to the journals and I just mess about with either swatches or colour mixing. And also I mean, now I'm dedicating a different book for each thing. So I'm going to have one for swatches in watercolour, one for swatches in colour pencil, and then I'm going to have one for when I do projects and I'm trying to pick the colours and how I get those colours before I transfer onto an actual painting. And it all helps, and it makes you more enjoyable, and also it makes it easier for you to produce your final painting. I learned that the hard way. I used to think, oh, just pick a brush up and paint. Learning about colour and how it reacts and the colours you've got in your palette is one of the most important things that you can do and learn from. As I say, you can buy shop greens, but I do prefer to mix my greens. But again, that's entirely up to you. That's a preferential choice. So I wish you luck. Have a go and just see how far you get, and see what you can understand. If you've got any questions, just ask me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But as I say, I'm going to be doing this now from beginning of August. I'm going to be doing at least one a week, maybe two a week on YouTube. And I will also probably be doing some tutorials and also possibly some time-lapse ones of the works that I'm doing, at the time. So there'll be a mixture of colored pencil and watercolor. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful for you if you're a beginner or even if you're an intermediate or whatever, if you've not been painting for a long time. But get your paints, just relax and have a bit of fun and mess about with your colour. You'll learn a lot more from doing it that way than stressing when you're trying to do a painting and you can't get the colours right. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next in just a couple of weeks. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye bye.